Bashar al-Assad, the enigma of power and the edge of collapse. Imagine this, a soft-spoken doctor in London, known for his unassuming demeanor and precise hands, is suddenly thrust into the harsh world of authoritarian rule. Bashar al-Assad's journey from a reserved ophthalmologist to the leader of a war-torn nation is a tale of destiny, power, and survival. But today, that journey may be nearing its end. Opposition forces claim they've seized Damascus. Assad's whereabouts? Unknown. How did we arrive at this moment? The making of Bashar al-Assad. Born on September 11, 1965, into Syria's ruling elite, Bashar al-Assad was not the obvious heir to his father, Hafez al-Assad. His older brother, Basil, was groomed for leadership, charismatic, bold, and seen as the perfect successor. Bashar, in contrast, was studious and reserved, preferring the sciences over politics. In 1988, Bashar left Syria to pursue medical training in London, specializing in ophthalmology. His life was far removed from the cutthroat world of Syrian politics, and by all accounts, he seemed destined for a quiet life in medicine. But fate had other plans. In 1994, Basil's sudden death in a car accident upended the Assad family's future. Bashar was called back to Syria, not as a grieving son, but as a reluctant heir to the throne. Hafez al-Assad began grooming his second son, molding him into the leader Syria would one day follow. The rise to power. When Hafez al-Assad died in 2000, Bashar ascended to the presidency with promises of reform and modernization. The world watched with cautious optimism. Could this young, Western-educated leader bring change to a regime known for its brutality? The early days of his presidency saw small steps toward liberalization, but hope soon turned to disillusionment. Reform gave way to repression as Bashar tightened his grip on power, stifling dissent and consolidating control over Syria's complex web of military, political, and economic institutions. The Arab Spring and the descent into chaos. By 2011, the Arab Spring swept across the Middle East, and Syria was no exception. Peaceful protests against corruption and inequality erupted across the country. Bashar al-Assad's response was swift and unforgiving. His government unleashed its security forces, turning peaceful demonstrations into bloody battlegrounds. What began as civil unrest spiraled into a brutal civil war, drawing in global powers and leaving Syria in ruins. Cities like Aleppo and Homs became symbols of unimaginable destruction, while millions of Syrians fled their homes, creating one of the largest refugee crises in modern history. Assad's regime endured, propped up by powerful allies like Russia and Iran. These partnerships, coupled with his government's ability to exploit divisions among opposition groups, allowed him to cling to power despite international condemnation and mounting evidence of war crimes. Breaking news, a nation on the brink. Fast forward to today, and the unthinkable seems to be happening. Opposition fighters claim to have captured Damascus, Syria's heart and Assad's stronghold. Rebel leaders, including Abu Muhammad al-Julani of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, assert they've taken control of key government institutions and are preparing for a peaceful transition of power. Meanwhile, chaos spreads across the nation. In Homs, thousands of prisoners have been freed, fueling panic among Assad's supporters. Reports suggest that Syrian army troops are abandoning their positions, leaving the regime's remnants in disarray. Neighboring countries and global powers watch anxiously. While Qatar and Saudi Arabia welcome the possibility of Assad's downfall, Iran and Russia issue stern warnings about the implications for regional stability. Embassies scrambled to evacuate citizens, underscoring the gravity of the situation. The final interrogation: who is Bashar al-Assad? In this pivotal moment, the world is left grappling with one question: who is Bashar al-Assad? Is he a tyrant fleeing the justice he long evaded? Or is he the tragic product of a broken system, doomed to collapse under its own weight? Throughout his reign, Assad portrayed himself as a steadfast protector of Syria against terrorism and Western imperialism. But his critics argue he is the architect of his nation's suffering, a leader who chose self-preservation over the well-being of his people. The future of Syria. As the dust settles over Damascus, the future of Syria hangs in the balance. The fall of Bashar al-Assad could mark the end of an era, but it is far from a guarantee of peace. The power vacuum left behind may unleash new waves of conflict as rival factions vie for control in a fractured landscape. For the Syrian people, battered by over a decade of war, this moment is bittersweet. Will it herald a new beginning or plunge the nation into yet another cycle of violence and despair? Your turn. What do you think? Has Assad's time finally come to an end? And what does the future hold for Syria? Share your thoughts in the comments below.